innovation at Software AG right here in South Africa. It covers primarily IoT, analytics, integration, process optimization, and automation. Gareth has been with Software AG going on 10 years, and prior to that, with other similar enterprise solution providers for a career spanning more than 24 years. So he's definitely an expert and someone who's knowledgeable in what he's talking about. Gareth focuses on achieving customer and partner success, applying both business need and desired outcomes, and delivering the associated technology strategy to that. Gareth, welcome. It is an absolute pleasure to have you in the conference. Over to you, sir, for your presentation.
Thank you, Ishmael. I'm just going to leap right into it. So hopefully what I will be conveying today is talking about the value and how to derive value and quicker time to market out of a unified IoT platform. So I'm going to share my screen now. And what you should see now is my presentation. So basically, what is IoT? I mean, we all know that. We're all at this conference for a reason, but it's a very simple explanation. Obviously, IoT is about connecting physical things into your organization. So bringing that into your digital platform. And why do we do that? I mean, you know, we're connecting up these physical devices, sensors, things like that. We're bringing it through, we're analyzing the data, we're doing the communication, and we're bringing it back into the mothership. But why? I mean, it's not just that we all like playing with these cool devices that do great things. The key, obviously, of why we're doing this is business value. You know, what is this going to do for our organization? So how do we actually then derive and achieve that value, and what are we looking to do? I mean, some of the most common ones, obviously, why we're doing these solutions is things like lowering of costs, you know, preventive maintenance on our equipment, whether that be a massive and gigantic wind turbine, a factory equipment, or even something a lot smaller like a coffee machine. I mean, some of the examples which I'll show in the presentation. You know, optimizing the usage of our assets and making them more efficient. It's obviously about engaging with the customers, and not just customers, citizens as well, because as much as a lot of this obviously is about making money and growing the organization, a lot of it is also about delivering value for the citizens and for our customers. So increasing the customer experience, increasing customer retention, providing them new offerings, new business models, but also for citizens. I mean, things like, you know, what we're currently doing with the solution. One example, you know, from a vaccine distribution, tracking, and cold chain monitoring perspective, that really adds benefit into the lives of the citizens. So it's not always just a quantitative value that we're looking to achieve. It's also qualitative, both for our customer and the citizen who is our customer. And obviously creating new business models, you know, assets as a service. We have a lot of customers who've done that with our platform, where they've actually moved from selling physical hardware to providing that as a service, steam as a service, compression as a service. So being able to stay competitive in an ever-changing market. So from Gartner, the numbers are saying that about 63% of CEOs perceive IoT to have a significant material business impact. So they actually see it as something valuable to the organization. And 42% of organizations have deployed at least one IoT use case. And of those that have, 80% of them have said that they actually received greater value than what they expected by doing that use case. So a lot of the times you'll find organizations might be hesitant to look at IoT, but once they actually embrace it, they do see a lot of value. One of the biggest challenges, however, is a lot of organizations are experimenting with IoT, but it's not actually making it into production. So there's a lot of side projects, there's a lot of, you know, money spent on trying things out, but you know, roughly about 19% of those are actually going into production and starting to make money for the company, starting to bring value to the customers and the citizens. Why do IoT projects fail? Well as the being stuck in the experimentation phase, one of the reasons, quite a large reason, is they run in isolation. They're not connecting to the business. So from McKinsey and Capgemini, saying 80% of IoT POCs failed to convert to a business practice, and 65% of them could not articulate the business value of the IoT POCs for investment. Why carry on doing this? It was great as a trial, as an experiment, but how do we actually monetize this? How do we actually do something valuable, and how do we connect it to our existing business models? About 70% of those projects, one of the biggest challenges is integration. So we can get the thing up and running, we can show that it can work, it can do something, but how do we now connect that back? How do we tie it into our existing business processes? Be that from a technical perspective, connect it into our existing ERPs, CRMs, our own business systems, but even to our organization's business processes. So that's one of the key things as well that should be looking at when you're saying, well, why are we doing this? Are we doing it for the sake of doing it? Or how is it actually going to tie in overall and bring value to the organization and work within the organization? Obviously, you have already a number of variety of applications in your organization that you will want to bring this data in, that you will want to interact with. It doesn't want to be a one-way flow. You need to make sure that it becomes, IoT is just another worker within the organization. It's just bringing in additional data sources, additional streams. It's also, you're going to have a lot of different types of data, even from your IoT solutions, that you want to bring together to actually combine to add value to the company, to the customer, or to the citizen. You also, one of the challenges is being able to then run it wherever the customer is, wherever the data is. That might be in a large metropolitan area, it might be down a mine shaft. Very different environments, and you need to have that flexibility. And obviously the ability to integrate whatever system, whatever your customers bring, whatever device types are brought into the organization. Obviously, a lot of this then slows down your time to value. So these are the kind of things that you need to think about up front to understand how you're going to get that out very quickly. Obviously, one of the key things that we look at is the simplification of IoT and the integration of IoT into the business. You want to empower business and IT to be able to connect applications and automate workflows within your IoT environment. You don't want to pigeonhole it into just one area within the organization, seen as something that's very, it's rocket science. It can't be used for business. It can only be used for very technical things. You want to make sure that whatever you do, it can talk to everything. Not just the devices talking to the platform, but the platform talking to all the systems, to all the different customer systems and requirements. And you need to be able to connect anything. One of the things I talked on in the presentation is, you might have one IoT solution that's delivering value, and it does a very specific thing. But the moment you try and scale it, or the moment you bring in additional use cases with different types of sensors, different types of devices, then it's another system, and then another one, until eventually you have all these things not talking to one another, not sharing data, and not sharing that data into the business systems. And that can get very tricky. That can really slow down your progress and your time to value, because you've got one thing doing a little bit of value, but now you're stuck there. And obviously being able to unlock that data, not just from the IoT side of things, from the devices, the sensors, but obviously from your existing systems as well. How do you combine them to really get true value? To be able to monetize not just the data that's coming in, but the data you already have. And obviously it needs to be incredibly secure, it needs to be well governed and protected. As I said, one of the challenges is from your organization, you might want to offer one thing. Example, a customer, they might they have steam equipment, and that's what they do. Obviously, you can offer a solution to your customers, monitoring, measuring, doing predictive maintenance. You can change your business model to say, okay, we move from giving you machines, selling you machines, renting machines, to actually giving you certain volumes of whatever it is you need as a service. But what you might find, especially in a lot of government institutions and that we work with, we see is it's not just one case, one use case, it's many, and they all need to talk to one another, whether it be the street lighting, the buses, the smart bins, the electricity, the water, all of that becomes, one thing that you need to do together. You can't manage them all in isolation. That just makes your admin burden and your barrier to entry so much higher. So it's also about saying, how can I do all of these use cases or one of these use cases through the same thing? So obviously the vision is, and what we do, and you'll notice that I've put asterisks here with the timelines, because as we all know, connecting devices, I mean, if you've got a smarter device, that can be 30 seconds, up and running on the platform, sending data, manageable. You might find that your customer amongst the inventory has devices that they wish to use that are already deployed in their customers that are ancient. They have very proprietary protocols and you need to integrate those. And that's still not a problem. It's just the only reason why I put the asterisks is to say, through an ideal world, you connect up your device within 5 minutes, the data is flowing, you can then flow that data through the analytics and the dashboards, you can set up your smart rules, you can set up your machine learning in the platform, you can integrate it to your ERP, your cloud ERP, your CRM, your homegrown business system that needs to actually do the billing for your IoT platform, or trigger activity to disconnect a customer when they're no longer paying for the service. And you can build your own applications on top of that, graphically, drag and drop, very quickly. I mean, that's what you want to get to be able to deliver new solutions very quickly. Take something to the market. When you have an idea, you don't want to be held back. You don't want to have to wait 6 months and someone else has eaten your lunch. The other thing is to start off small, but know that you have the runway to grow rapidly. So you can start off with a simple use case. Connect up the devices, get the data flowing. Great. What can we do with that data? You can then progress on to, okay, now that we have the data flowing through one type of device, through thousands of types of device, through millions of different devices, what can we do with it? What value can we add so we can now sell that on as a value add service to our customers? And as the data is flowing and it's going through the analysis and that, we can learn and innovate. And we can see, okay, based on what we now know, which we didn't know before, how can we then do something new? How can we offer new business models for our customers or change the way we work internally to save money, make money, or grow our market share? Obviously, from a comprehensive platform point of view, as I said, you want to have rapid deployment. You want to get to a minimum viable product. And I'll show you with some customer examples how that can be done in days or weeks. Something out in the market, adding value to your customers. Get that first thing out there, be the first, and then know that it can scale massively, that it can be distributed wherever you need, and that it's very flexible and based on open standards if you need to change it or even migrate it. The other great thing from a platform approach point of view is IoT, from the studies, IoT platforms are a lot more cost effective. As I mentioned, if you have one solution and it does one thing with one sort of type of device, that's fine. It works, it does what you need. But especially as you start to move into multiple use cases, you start to grow your market and get a lot more customers, a lot more devices, the costs for managing that yourself, for managing the multiple different types of systems can get quite tricky, can get quite pricey, can need a lot of manpower to handle that. Whereas obviously if you've got a platform that can do all of those across all those different device types, that can severely reduce your costs and your headache of management. This can help you obviously accelerate your IoT projects. So you can innovate faster. You can start to get a lot more business insights directly from those customers. You can reduce your costs and obviously do this a lot faster. So just a couple of customer examples that we've done. Insurance company, one of the largest insurers in Europe, they have millions of customers now with devices inside the car where they can actually do new offerings, analyzing the driver behavior and contractual data from the ERP and giving things like real-time insurance or discounts for driver good behavior, etc. Being able to manage, as I say, millions of those different devices within the same platform, doing manufacturing where they can actually start to offer new services based on the information that they're getting fed back directly from their vending machines and their stock and operation management, so that they can see, okay, where can we actually tweak this now so we can make a lot more money out of our existing products. Automating your back office events, so directly tying in things from the devices, from the factory floor or from the mine or from anything like that, so that it'll kick off automated action. As I mentioned, disconnecting a customer who's no longer paying, automatically ordering needed parts before it becomes a problem, and being able to offer that agility. So, for instance, being able to monitor and optimize energy consumption or other customers with water consumption, water leakage, or energy theft, and including the real-time analysis of a full building, the heating, the ventilation, the cooling systems. You'd be amazed at some of the business cases done where the amount of money you can save just with the smallest little insight is massive. And obviously that's something you can sell on to your customers as a massive value add. So what do we want in a unified platform? What do we have in the unified platform? Obviously, you want it to be scalable, you want it to be secure, you want it to be able to run anywhere. You want it to be able to have, no matter what type of device, what type of network, whatever vertical you're in, all your different use cases. Should not hold you back. Should be able to connect all of that up. And true multi-tenancy, so that, as I say, you can on-sell that fully white label to your customers and offer whatever kind of solution they need. But also the full multi-tenancy, both from a scalability point of view and from a privacy point of view. You might have a medical use case, you might have an insurance use case, and at the same time, you might have a vending machine use case. They are not the same from a separation of data point of view, and you can control that. Obviously, you want to make sure your platform supports everything. No matter what kind of industrial standard, IoT protocol, standard protocols, open protocols, whatever type of analytics and that you use in-house, whatever systems you bring, you need to know that you can connect that up easily and have that up and running very quickly. You also want to be able to connect any type of device. And that's why I mentioned earlier with the 5 minutes. This may be a pre-vetted thing that you literally plug in and it automatically connects, So setup time, 5 seconds. Or you might have a new device or something you build yourself. It might be something that you're planning on releasing to the market and you want to be able to connect that up. So you have that flexibility that no matter what type of device you're bringing to the party or your customers are asking you to manage for them, you can handle that. You obviously, if the device supports it, because obviously not all devices do, want to be able to remotely and automatically manage those devices. Update their firmware, switch them on and off, do routine checks, remote into them, have all that controlled directly from your web application. You're going to have a lot of data flowing as well. Another consideration that you always have to have for your IoT solution. What do you do with that data? Where do you put it? How do you actually sift through it and get any kind of value out of it? How do you access it easily from a data lake or directly from any of your existing BI tools so that you can actually make sense of it? How do you feed it through all types of analytics within the platform so you can do the real-time streaming analytics as the data is flowing? You can flow it through machine learning models directly and do your predictive analytics, your image recognition of a distracted driver, for example. You can create, train, and deploy your machine learning models directly within your platform. Again, doing this all graphically through the cockpit, you're not restricting the platform or the access or the barrier to entry. You're making that as easy as possible. As mentioned, having that full graphical integration as well with a multitude of pre-configured connectors and recipes so that it's not just the devices that are easily connected in. If you need to hook up your SAP or your Oracle financials, it should just be a matter of plugging that in and now it's connected into your IoT landscape. Being able to create your own applications. So you've got the platform, the devices are connected, you're managing the data's flowing. What do you want to offer to your customer? What do you want to use yourself? How do you manage all of that data and show it very easily? Just creating those web applications. through a configurable drag and drop interface, or using out-of-the-box solution accelerators which offer from ourselves, from our partners. As an example, you might have a water management use case or a building management use case. You don't want to go and drag and drop and create all those nice dashboards and views and controls yourself. You just want to deploy that and say, great, we're getting the data in, the water's flowing, here's where the leaks are, this is how we manage it, here's all the reports, and send out automatic operations to turn the valves on and off. Let's get that out very quickly. You also want to make sure that wherever your customer is, wherever your data is or your machinery, you can get to it. So it's not just that you want to connect to your cloud base or back to your platforms running in your data center. You want to be able to do that distributed. You want to be able to make sure that that will still carry on processing and do what it needs when the power is out or there's no connection between the site and home base, so that it can run all of the analytics. It can do all of the automated decisions and everything like that on site, be that at the mine, in the factory, or wherever it may be. So being able to handle all devices, all types, all kinds of communication, both from the edge, at the cloud, and connected to your on-premise applications. Fully scalable, fully highly available, backed up, truly multi-tenant, fully white labelable, end-to-end security, and flexible deployment. From our sales point of view as well, backing that up, obviously, we have a massive ecosystem of partners, alliances, system integrators, consortia, really covering all the bases, making sure that this is taken care of. If you yourself want to put your devices onto our platform, pre-certify them so that literally someone knows it'll be plug and play rather than them having to do those few minutes or hours of integration to your device. It can even be listed on a partner portal. And you can even create solutions and resell them through our platform. Offer them out around the country or to other countries through the solution exchange. Obviously, all of the technical stuff of that fully publicly available. All the documentation, all the code, everything is out there. So from a time to value point of view, it's really about stop holding yourself back. Build what you need really quickly, capitalize on that strategy, and start making money. Some of the examples I've already touched on. I'm going to go through these very quickly, just as I see we're running out of time. But one of our customers, air compressors, they would rent or sell air compressors through to their customers. But now, obviously, as a value add, they can monitor, they can manage, they can do predictive maintenance on those machines remotely. And end to end, to get that going, it took them 6 weeks across 16 brands to get that out into the market using our platform. So they offer fully uniquely branded to themselves, platform to the customers, so that they can sell on that value add on top of their already existing products that they were selling to market. Managing painting robots, doing a lot faster decision, detecting anomalies, and doing predictive maintenance. If you need to send a car back up the assembly line, that costs a lot of money. If you can pick that up in real time and adjust automatically and have that managed for you, that saves a massive amount of money and offers a lot of value, and the business case writes itself. Wind turbines. And the reason I show these different disparate use cases is to show that from a platform point of view, you can go all the way from a coffee machine to this incredibly gigantic machinery, thousands of them. Same platform, no problem, doesn't even break a sweat. Autonomous operation, fully managing and making sure you get the most efficient utilization out of that. Managing your fleet, monitoring your vehicles, or even checking your pollution emissions directly. Again, this is another one that took, I think, 6 weeks from idea to market. And then we have a lot of telcos using our platform, rebranded offering to their customers. Deutsche Telekom is an example. We have multitudes of them across the world. So you can offer the platform to your customers so that they can build their own solutions, or you can offer your own solutions to them directly. I mean, rapidly, just off inception, they immediately got 60 new customers because they could literally say, here's a platform, it does everything you need, test it out for yourself, prove the concept, get it up and running. And as I mentioned, from a turbine all the way down to a coffee machine, automated ordering to make sure that your customer is never running out of, that liquid that it keeps their entire organization running. And automatically, it just improves their supply chain and their deliveries. Through to millions of vehicles monitoring for, your insurance policies, crashes, claims, driver behavior, tracking, all of these things, same platform. So my other offer to you then is try it out for yourself. You can go on this incredibly long and complicated softwareag.cloud, and you can find, through the whole URL down to Cumulocity, or you can just go to cumulocity.com. It'll redirect you, and there you can try out for free. It'll automatically spin up a tenant for you. It'll send you the credentials. Try it out for a month. If you need any assistance, there's already a lot of examples and demos within there. And as I say, all the documentation, everything fully online. So whatever you need, you could literally have your use case, start today, have something going within the next month, and be selling that on. And that's me. I think we have a few minutes for questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gareth. I knew that. I was excited that there was going to be a really good presentation. I think there are multiple avenues that can be explored to ensure that some of these use cases across verticals can be implemented. I think you mentioned think big, start small, move fast. I think it's just about getting started. I think people need to actually just start and think about where some of these applications can fit into their worlds. You touched on cost-effective IoT platforms, right? Mm-hmm. And that was fascinating. Now, that was interesting because there's a misconception that these IoT technologies are expensive, right? Now, in your view, right, from an African context, right, what does it take to actually get some of these? What's the journey that you have to go as a business to partner with someone to actually get a solution implemented, in your view? Tell us that.
So a very good question, especially in the African context. I think the most important thing is partnerships. You've got to have the people in the right place with the right knowledge on the ground. You also, from a device point of view, I mean, obviously, as you say, get started. The first thing is get the data flowing. How do you get the data flowing? You have devices. A customer may come to you and already have devices, or they may come to you and say, we have nothing. What can you do? So the partnerships are very important. Bringing in the right devices in the right place, in the right country, making sure they've got the support, and then can get that up and going. And as you say, from a pricing point of view, knowing that they can start small, literally go through on a pay-as-you-go model to say, I'm going to start off with something that's going to be very cheap to get up and going. You know what? If it doesn't work out, so what? We lost a couple of bucks. But it has the potential that it can expand massively. And you know that both from a technology point of view and a pricing point of view, you know all your costs and abilities up front. So you know it has the scalability, it has the volume, it can span the different regions and everything like that. But it can also, you know exactly what you're going to be paying in advance. So it's not a case of you become a victim of your own success.
Yeah.
You can literally say, I'm going to start off, try it out with a few customers. If they like it and it gets ground, we see it's actually selling like hotcakes. It's not a case of, and this is one of the challenges I see with a lot of IoT solutions where people build it themselves. Initially, you build a solution to do one thing and for a certain size. And it works brilliantly. It's really good. It's great. I mean, there is no solution. I would not say anything in this space that is bad. Whether it's one Raspberry Pi or a billion devices.
Yeah.
It's literally knowing that no matter what direction it goes in, you can move with it. You can move with it very quickly, and you know what it's going to cost and how long it's going to take. Because that's the problem. One of the biggest problems I see with a lot of these solutions that stall is they start off small and they stay small because they were built to be small and they were built to do one thing, and then that's where they stay. So
and that's interesting that you take. I mean, this is an Africa IoT summit to some degree, even though we have speakers from around the world. When your solution, is it mostly for the private sector or is it for the public sector as well? Have you had multiple discussions with both ends of the spectrum? Yeah. And how have you found dealings with the public sector when you're looking at dealing with governments in Africa to ensure that they're all chasing smart city status to some degree, right? And in order to be considered as a smart city, you need to have some of the solutions that you are bringing to the fore, right? How have you found those engagements, and have you been successful across Africa?
So I think that's, as you say, it's more. So we have a lot of smart city engagements and customers around the world. From an African context, I think it's more driven from the private sector, because I think one of the misconceptions and something we're trying to address is, as you say, IoT is seen as something costly, it's seen as something difficult, and then it comes down to, well, how are we going to pay for it? Who's going to fund it? And then typically that's a lot easier conversation with a business that's out to make money rather than an entity that's there to derive and deliver value for the citizens. At the end of the day, it's the same solution, it's the same devices, it's the same use cases, but trying to get in front of the right people to show them the business case, to say, this makes sense. Optimizing your trash collection or, stopping your water leakage is, while that might not be in theory in your mind a revenue making model, that's actually saving you a massive amount of money. I mean, water leakage alone around the world is a ridiculous cost waster.
Absolutely.
And that's the kind of thing, getting in front of the right people to say, look, here's the business case. I know that in theory you don't see yourself as a business, you see yourself more as a service delivery provider to the citizens, but you know what? Why spend billions when you could spend millions? Why spend millions when you can spend thousands? And that's funding itself.
Think big, start small, move fast. Ladies and gentlemen, Gareth, Whitaker. There are a ton more questions, by the way. Unfortunately, we're out of time. At the end, we have that open forum, and I hope that you'll stick around. I've got some questions for you as well, and a few ideas. So hopefully we can bounce some off. And you mentioned, getting in front of the right people. You're in front of the right people right now. They have an entire audience that are on this forum, and I encourage you, delegates, reach out to Gareth Whitaker from Software AG to have a discussion. Okay.
Happen.
Great. Thanks, Gareth. That was fantastic. We're going to move on. I'll ask you to drop off. Ladies and gentlemen, if just a quick note, let me just check